I will present the background of our research, which focus on understanding the factor that influence passenger satisfaction with public transport in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. As Kuala Lumpur continues to grow rapidly, the city faces increasing traffic congestion and higher transportation demand. Public transport play an important role in reducing congestion, lowering carbon emission, and supporting sustainable urban mobility. Although services such as the LRT, MRT, monorail, BRT, and buses have expanded significantly, and also passenger satisfaction remains a key challenge. This study is important because the passenger are more likely to continue using public transport, recommend it to others, and contribute to a more sustainable transport system. In the Klang Valley, which has over 8 million residents, convenience, cost saving, and avoiding traffic are among the main reason people choose public transport. Based on the issues, our research examined 4 key factors that may influence passenger satisfaction, which is service quality, timeliness, value for money, and also environmental attitude. We collected survey data and analyzed it using SPSS to identify the most significant factor. Ultimately, the finding will provide useful recommendation for transport operator and policymaker to improve service quality and encourage greater public transport usage in Kuala Lumpur.
So now I will talk about the problem statement. Although the government has to continuously improve their public transportation infrastructure, passenger satisfaction remains a major concern. Many passengers still experience problems such as an unreliable schedule, long waiting times, uncomfortable facilities, and also the poor service quality. So this issue that can reduce the public confidence and the discourage of the people from choosing public transport of their main mode of transportation. In addition, most previous studies focus on the theoretical discussion, while limited empirical studies that have examined the actual experience of the public transport users in Kuala Lumpur. Therefore, there is still a need to identify the factor that significantly influence that passenger satisfaction. By the finding of this study, we'll have the transport authorities and policy makers that understand which factors have the greatest impacts on the passenger satisfaction and provide useful recommendations to improve the quality of the public transportation service in Malaysia. That's all from me. I will pass for the next presenter.
For this slide, I will present the research questions, research objective, and method of analysis for our research, which is factors influencing passenger satisfaction at public transport in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. This study consists of 5 research questions. Research question 1 asks whether there is a relationship between service quality and passenger satisfaction towards public transport in Kuala Lumpur. Research question 2 examines whether timeliness such as punctuality and waiting time has a relationship with passenger satisfaction. Next, the research question 3 investigates whether value for money, which refers to whether passengers feel the service is worth the fare paid, that influence passenger satisfaction. Research question 4 focuses on environmental attitude, which examines whether passengers' environmental awareness and concern influence their satisfaction with public transport. Lastly, research question 5 aims to identify which factor is the most significant in influencing passenger satisfaction among the 4 independent variables. Next are the research objectives. The research objectives are developed based on the research questions. Research question 1 is to determine the relationship between service quality and passenger satisfaction. Research objective 2 is to examine the relationship between timeliness and passenger satisfaction. Next, research objective 3 is to identify the relationship between value for money and passenger satisfaction. Research objective 4 is to investigate the relationship between environmental attitude and passenger satisfaction towards public transport in Kuala Lumpur. Lastly, research objective 5 is to identify the most significant factor influencing passenger satisfaction towards public transport in Kuala Lumpur. Lastly, research objective 5 is to identify the most significant factor influencing passenger satisfaction towards public transport in Kuala Lumpur. Lastly, regarding the method of analysis, this study adopts a quantitative research approach. Data will be collected using a structured questionnaire, and the information gathered will be used to analyze the relationship between the 4 independent variables, which are service quality, timeliness, value for money, and environmental attitude, and the dependent variable, which is passenger satisfaction. This method enables the researchers to answer the research questions and achieve the research objective effectively. For my part, I will present the summary of the literature review from prominent scholars regarding passenger satisfaction towards public transport. Based on previous study, most scholars agree that passenger satisfaction is influenced by four main characters, namely service quality, timeliness, value for money, and environmental attitude. First, Wong Chi-Hu at AAL 2023 found that service quality is the most significant factor influencing passenger satisfaction. Passengers are more satisfied when public transport services are clean, comfortable, safe, and reliable. Next, Zhang et 2020 explained that passenger satisfaction is closely related to comfort, safety, convenience, travel time, and service reliability. Their study shows that an efficient and well-integrated public transport system improves the overall travel experience. In addition, Ahmad Nazrul Hakimi Ibrahim highlighted that the service quality and perceived value have a significant positive effect on passenger satisfaction. This means passengers are more satisfied when they feel the quality of the service matches the fare they pay. Furthermore, Howard and Zhou in 2022 emphasized the importance of timeliness. They found that punctual services, shorter waiting times, and reliable schedule increase passengers' confidence and satisfaction with public transport. Finally, Hu and Wahida 2023 reported the environmental attitude also plays an important role. People who are more concerned about environmental sustainability tend to have a more positive perception of public transport because it helps reduce traffic congestion and carbon emissions. In conclusion, the literature consistently shows that service quality, timeliness, value for money, and environmental attitude all have positive influence on passenger satisfaction. Among these factors, service quality is the strongest and most consistent factor identified by previous researchers. Thank you.
Next, I will continue about the research method. So the first one is research design. So basically, we use a quantitative research design because it focuses on collecting numerical data and analyzing it statistically. So the data were collected through a structured questionnaire using the Google form. The main purpose of this study is to examine the relationship between service quality, timeliness, value for money, and environmental attitude with passenger satisfaction among public transport users in Kuala Lumpur. So the collected data were analysed using the SPSS, and two main statistical analyses were conducted, which is descriptive analysis and multiple linear regression. This is to summarize the data and to identify which factor significantly influence the passenger satisfaction. And finally, the research framework consists of four independent variables like service quality, timeliness, value for money, environmental attitude, and one dependent variable, which is passenger satisfaction. So next, I will continue about the sampling technique and the sample size. So basically, in this study, we use a non-probability convenience sampling techniques. The questionnaire was distributed through a Google form and shared via WhatsApp. So our respondent participated voluntarily, and we are selected based on their experience using the public transport in Kuala Lumpur. A total of 34 valid responses were collected during the data collection period. So these responses were analysed using the SPSS to examine the relationship between the independent variables and passenger satisfaction. For a questionnaire design, we use a structured questionnaire through a Google form to collect a primary data from public transport users in Kuala Lumpur. So the questionnaire consisted of closed-ended question, making it easy for respondent to answer and for the data to be analysed using the SPSS. So the questionnaire was divided into three sections. Section A collected demographic information such as gender, age, occupation, education level, and monthly income. Section B measure the four independent variables like service quality, timeliness, value for money, and environmental attitude. Section C measured the dependent variable, which is passenger satisfaction. And overall, the questionnaire was designed using a clear and simple language with a logical flow to encourage respondents to complete the survey and provide the accurate responses. So based on our survey, we have collected total of 34 respondents, and most of them were female, aged between 80 and 24 years old, and were students. Most of our respondents had a monthly income of less than 1,000 ringgit and mainly used the LRT several times a month, especially for educational purpose. Next is the normality test. The results show that all the skewness and kurtosis values were within the acceptable range. This means that the data were normally distributed and suitable for further statistical analysis. For the reliability analysis, timeliness and value for money show a good reliability, while passenger satisfaction had an acceptable reliability level. However, service quality and environmental attitude recorded lower reliability, suggesting that these questionnaire items could be improved in the future studies. Looking at the descriptive statistic, all variables recorded mean values above 3.0, indicating that respondents generally agree with the statements. Among all the variables, passenger satisfaction had the highest overall mean of 3.91, showing that respondents were generally satisfied with the public transport services. The correlation analysis found that all 4 independent variables had a positive and significant relationship with passenger satisfaction. This means that better service quality, timeliness, value for money, and environmental attitude are associated with higher passenger satisfaction. Finally, the regression analysis showed that the model explained 54.4% of passenger satisfaction. However, only service quality and value for money had a significant effect on passenger satisfaction, while timeliness and environmental attitude were not significant predictors.
Lastly, I would like to conclude our research proposal. This study focuses on identifying the factors that influence passenger satisfaction towards public transport in Kuala Lumpur. Specifically, we examined 4 independent variables, which are services, quality, timeliness, value for money, and environmental attitude, to determine how they affect passenger satisfaction. To achieve our research objective, we adopted a quantitative research approved by distributing questionnaires to public transport users. The collected data will be analyzed using SPSS, including descriptive statistic, correlation analysis, and multiple regression analysis to identify the most significant factor influencing passenger satisfaction. Overall, we hope that the findings of this study will provide valuable insight for policymakers and public transport operators to improve the quality of public transportation services. By enhancing passenger satisfaction, this research can also encourage more people to use public transport, reduce traffic congestion, and contribute to a more efficient and sustainable transportation system in Kuala Lumpur. Thank you. That's all from us.